Hey, Jenny.
Hey, hi guys, this is Jenny and Nick, and we're back talking about Nick and Yolan Hughes's EQ code. And so excited to share a great idea with you. We're going to talk about internal and external. Before we get there, I want to establish the reason again why, as an educator, I love the code so much, and I'm so excited that it's found its way into my life. I did a lot of work in the education field and in just personal growth mindset, which if you haven't read that, if those of you watching this video haven't read that, I highly recommend it. It's a fabulous read. And she talks about the idea of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and how knowing the difference between those two things really can set you free. You may be stressed out, anxious, overwhelmed, and you don't know why. And her tenet is it's probably because there's an area in your life where you need growth, but you don't know it. And so she talks a lot about those two different mindsets. A fixed mindset would be one where you believe that you have a certain level of intelligence and that cannot be improved. You naturally are a poor cook, and so you don't really ever think you can get better. Growth mindset is one that teachers love to tell students about. Unfortunately, a lot of teachers don't practice it themselves until they're called on it. The growth mindset is one that establishes that really the way towards happiness is growing and learning, and it's a lifelong endeavor, a lifelong pursuit. And the EQ code I love because it has put feet to that idea for me. It shows me a way to grow in areas that aren't quite so obvious, like cooking or learning. So Nick, I'm excited for you to talk to us today about internal and external. We talked about the little circle. Take it away.
Great. I love the thing of fixed growth mindset, just to loop on that very quickly, because I think for those of us who are growth mindset overall, it can be easy to think that we're not fixed mindset at all. We're all fixed mindset in certain areas, and that's what the EQ code helps us to find, those areas where we are fixed.
Yes.
So the EQ code, there's the 14 logical elements that we're talking about. When we talk about internal, external, we're going to focus there's internal, external, these two concepts here, so that we're at the highest level that we're talking about. There's the logic, but it requires two symbols, the circle symbol basically. So everything in this realm really focuses on the internal, external. So I'm going to go into a bit more detail. So the little circle is something that helps us to say that every human is a little circle. So you're a little circle and I'm a little circle. What we love about that is on an internal basis, the little circle is really simple. It helps us to go, I'll just go one slide down. Everything inside that little circle is the internal. So your internal is totally different to my internal and totally different to everyone else's internal. So every little circle is totally different. But when we consider the external, it's everything outside of our skin. So it's the whole universe outside of our skin is what we consider to be the external. So when we look at life in this very simplistic way, there's internal, inside our little circle, and external, everything outside our little circle, our friends, other people, the environment, cars, our job, etc. We start to be able to simply look at life. So it's a really powerful framework. Before I go into the external, I'd like to come back to the little circle and just understand that this framework helps us to look at the simplicity. So that's the whole point of this framework. It's to make life really simple, because emotional, social issues, they're so complex. Like we get all tied up in the emotion of it, and we are very fixed often in many significant areas in our life, particularly in the social front. Now, it's good to be fixed sometimes. That's why society works and evolves, but sometimes we've got to let go of particular ideas so that we continue to evolve society and make sure it's better in the future for our children. So the little circle keeps things ridiculously simple. For all little circles, we can see the sameness. So every human being can be represented by a circle. So all of a sudden we can see that we're all about the same and really feel the truth of there's 7.7 billion little circles on the planet, and we're all about the same at the end of the day. So that helps us out with equality, both for the front part of our brain, which we logically understand. Okay, there's 7.7 billion little circles on the planet. Yeah, they're all about the same. And it helps us to unconsciously feel that. So the back part of the brain can go, oh, yeah, okay, I can get that. And the other thing the little circle does, apart from the simplicity angle, is it helps to give us boundaries. And boundaries are very important because some of us If someone else feels bad and they feel internally bad, we have no boundaries and their feelings become our feelings. So little circles help us to go, oh, hang on, there's the feelings that your little circle has, and then there's the feelings that another little circle has, and these feelings are not actually your feelings. So sometimes it's useful to feel into them and to notice them, and other times we need to be able to cut that boundary and go, well, that's actually in my external. So sometimes I need to take it into account, and sometimes I'm actually better off not to, because it becomes a bit icky.
Yeah.
So I like this diagram because it's a bit of a simple framework, but basically looking at our own little circle here, that's the internal, everything inside our little circle, and everything outside of this, which is covered by the grey, is in the external. So other little circles and everything in the universe, and I'll talk about a few of those things and get you to brainstorm with me what might be relevant. Everything else in the universe, so internal, inside my skin, external, outside my skin. So really simplistic way of looking at life. And again, if we look at outside my skin, I don't know, help me come up with some things that's useful. It's house.
Sure. People in your life, family,
people,
spouse, children.
Good. So it's people and family, and people, and also people we don't like. So it's the idiots out there in the world that we see. It's our job. It is food as well. So some external is important, but it's also the size of the house, it's cars, toys, and it's also doing stuff.
Where would you put abstract things like systems or, you know?
External. Our appearance is external because we can't look at our appearance from the internal. So how we look, doing stuff, anything that we do with the outside world is in the external. So the idea here is that in order to be a highly functioning individual who can influence the world in the way that we want, create what we want in the external, we actually need to be beautifully internally centered. What happens for most people is if the external goes crazy and the external feels bad on the outside, so that goes to red, then what happens to their little circle on the inside is they follow the external and they go red too. So there's no real control for the individual. And for some individuals, even when the external is red, green, they're red, but that's another story. But for most of us, when everything in our life is good and we can tick all the boxes in the outside world, in the external, we get to feel good internally. But again, if that goes bad, we follow, and we end up feeling bad pretty quickly. So the EQ code is designed so that no matter what is happening in the external, we learn to feel good and comfortable on the inside. Not so good that we do nothing, but so good that the front part of our brain is not overwhelmed with negative emotions. Anytime that we're red, the front part of our brain is not making great decisions, so our ability to influence will be less than any other time. So we want to be able to control the internal, so we can feel good consistently, and then we'll have the most chance of influencing the external in the way that we want, and to be able to get rid of the shit in the world and to clean it up. So our job is to learn how to create strong internal little circles, every individual.
That's beautiful. That helps so much. I love, like you said, the simplicity of it. It sometimes feels too simple, but that's the beauty of it, because we talked earlier about how there's, what did you say, something like 3,000 words in the English language alone to help to talk about emotions or the way that we feel. And that can just get it could clog us up so much, just thinking of it in terms of that simple circle and the simple external and internal. I love that.
Right. So what we're doing here is we're starting off with the really simplistic logic. So we talk about the EQ code being very binary. So there's black ideas and there's white ideas, and that has nothing to do with social implications there. It's just to say that there's contrast. There's extreme ideas this way, there's extreme ideas that way. Both ideas are useful. It's how we learn to use them. So we're just breaking it down into the very simplistic ideas now, and then we can build up from here and start to learn which idea is going to be useful in this situation. Is it the black idea or is it the white idea? Which of those extremes? And eventually we find the idea that feels good to the majority of the people and helps us to move forward as an individual, as a family unit, and as a human race as well.
I love that. I love that. And I think I heard you say earlier that, and when you were talking, when you showed that visual of the red and then the green of it spreading in, if you're not in control or aware of your circle, of your little circle, then the external is the thing that's controlling you. And so you're really at the whim of whatever happens at the moment. You're a puppet.
Puppet to the external. Yeah. So we want to stop being puppet to the external. We want to stop allowing other people to control how we feel.
I love that. Thank you, Nikk, so much. And we'll talk about some other things. We're going to talk about thinking and feeling in the next video. But this was such a great start. We appreciate your time.
Awesome, Jenny. Great to speak again. Cheers.